The Courier wasn't chosen. Not in the way people like to think, at least. He was selected to carry a package. That's it. A routine job. No glory. No prophecy. No grand calling. Just coordinates, a chip, and a target. He was never meant to change the Mojave. Never meant to rise, lead, or survive. But he did. And that's the entire point. See, Fallout New Vegas doesn't give you a traditional hero. There's no vault dweller saving the world, no chosen one restoring civilization. You wake up in a hole, shot in the head, forgotten by the very system that used you. And what happens next? That's all on you. It's a game that never once holds your hand. And that's exactly why it meant something to me. Because I've been there. Not in the dirt, maybe, but in a place just as low. I've had moments where life blindsided me, where I wasn't prepared, wasn't trained, wasn't ready in any real sense. And in those moments, no one came to save me. I had to crawl my way out. That's why this game's stuck. Fallout New Vegas isn't about right versus wrong. It's about what you're willing to fight for when there's nothing left to protect you. It's about how far you'll walk in the heat, the dust, and the silence when you don't have a map, but you still have a purpose. In this video essay, I'm not just breaking down the narrative of Fallout New Vegas. I'm showing you how this game became a reflection of real life. I'm going to walk through key decisions, moments, where the game forces you to choose, and I'll show you how every one of them ties back to something more personal. Discipline, identity, struggle, conviction. This isn't about the Courier. It's about what it takes to become something better, when no one ever expected you to make it. The first real test in Fallout New Vegas doesn't come at Hoover Dam. It doesn't involve Caesar, House, or Yes Man. It happens in a tiny town called Goodsprings, a town most players forget by the time they reach the strip, but it's where the game quietly lays the foundation for what it's really about. You meet two groups. On one side, you have the townspeople, regular folks just trying to survive, keep their land, and not get caught up in anyone else's war. On the other, you have the powder gangers, escaped convicts with a grudge, demanding a kind of justice built on fear. Ringo, the man that Joe Cobb wants, is hiding in a gas station, and Cobb, he wants him dead. And you just got here. You don't know anyone anything. That's the setup. And it's easy to assume there's a good answer, but when you side with the town, the powder gangers become your enemies. They'll shoot you on sight. You made a choice that has consequences. And if you side with the gangers, sure, maybe you gain some allies, but you lose something else. Your sense of who you are. And then there's the third option. Do nothing. Stay out of it. Walk away and let them figure it out themselves. But even that is a choice. And in New Vegas, neutrality doesn't protect you from the weight of your decisions. That hit me hard the first time I played. I spent most of my time trying to avoid conflict with people, staying quiet and, trying to be polite, not trying to rock the boat, not getting involved. And I convinced myself, I was being pretty smart, 10, 11-year-old me, even noble. But in reality, I was letting other people choose who I was going to be. And that's what Goodsprings teaches, if you're paying attention. Because it's not about the powder gangers or the farmers. It's about whether you're going to start shaping the world around you or keep letting it shape you. That first fight isn't a tutorial, it's a statement. The wasteland is waiting, and if you don't pick a side, the world will pick one for you. But the Courier, he doesn't rise to power because he follows orders. He rises because he starts taking responsibility. First in Goodsprings, and then across the Mojave. And that's how it starts in real life too. You make a small choice, what feels like a quiet moment, and down the road, it becomes a turning point. That was true for me also. The first time I stood up for something that mattered, it didn't feel epic, it felt inconvenient. It felt like a risk. But that risk changed everything, just like it does in Goodsprings. By the time you reach the strip, New Vegas opens up, and the world asks a bigger question. What kind of future do you believe in? And this is where most players start thinking in terms of factions. NCR, Caesar's Legion, Mr. House, maybe Yes Man. But the choice isn't about politics, it's about your philosophy. See, each faction is a mirror. They reflect real parts of you. NCR is law and order, but bloated, slow, and blind to its own corruption. They believe they're saving the wasteland, but half the time, they're just recreating the problems that led to its fall. The Legion is control through fear, brutal, efficient, but barbaric. Caesar believes the only path to peace is through dominance, through total obedience, and he's not wrong about everything. That's what makes him dangerous. Mr. House is a visionary, but a tyrant. He offers peace at the price of freedom, and in his mind, your role is to obey, to execute, not to think. And then there's Yes Man, the wild card. He's freedom with no filter, pure choice, pure chaos. You run the Mojave, but that doesn't mean you're ready to. And this is where the game reveals its real depth, because none of these choices are simple. There is no perfect answer. And that reflects real life. Growing up, I was taught to follow the rules, trust the system, obey authority, keep your head down, and everything will work out. But, like the NCR, I started to see the cracks. I saw people who said they cared, who wore the uniform of responsibility, but did nothing when it mattered. I saw what happens when obedience becomes a habit and not a conviction. And that's why Caesar's Legion also hit me. Because I've also known people who thought the answer was force, control, showing, no emotion, just results. But that leads somewhere worse. It's tempting to follow someone who promises certainty. It's comforting, to be told what to do. But that's how people become tools in someone else's war. Mr. House, he reminds me of every boss I've had who only saw people as resources. Replaceable, programmable. As long as the work got done, nothing else mattered. And when you finally get to make your choice, when you stand at that inflection point, New Vegas doesn't tell you what's right. It just hands you the responsibility. That's what I learned from these factions. That every path comes with trade-offs. The leadership isn't about power, it's about sacrifice. And that sometimes, the hardest part of life is realizing the future you're building might not be any better than what came before it. New Vegas asks, are you going to repeat history, or are you going to write something new? There's a reason Mr. House fascinates so many players. He's calm, logical, and persuasive. He's not evil. Not obviously. He wants to save humanity, as far as he says, to preserve culture, to make the Mojave something better than just a war zone. But look closer, and the cracks show. He doesn't trust people. He controls them. He doesn't build relationships. He programs outcomes. And I get that, because for a long time, I tried to control every part of my life. Tried to make everything efficient, neat, predictable. If I just stayed ahead of the chaos, maybe I could avoid the pain. But that's not control. That's fear disguised as order. Mr. House isn't a leader. He's a machine with a face. He doesn't believe in people, only in systems. And if you don't fit into a system, you're a bug that needs to be erased. There's a moment when you confront him where you realize he doesn't see you. He sees the chip, the outcome, the role, and that stuck with me. Because in life, we're taught to become something that fits, to be useful, efficient, to play our role. But eventually, you wake up and realize you're not living, you're performing. You're just another cog in someone else's machine. New Vegas gives you the option too, to kill Mr. House, or to serve him. And what you choose says a lot. I chose to walk away from control, not because I wanted chaos, but because I wanted to finally be accountable to my own vision. And that's the hardest part, because when you kill the puppet master, there's no one left to blame, just you, and whatever future you're strong enough to build. Dead money is the moment New Vegas stops being a game and starts becoming a metaphor. You're stripped of your weapons, your gear, your comfort. Every advantage you've built is gone. You're alone in a poisoned city with a collar around your neck that will explode if you take one wrong step. Sound familiar? Because that's life when everything falls apart. Dead money is the clearest test of discipline in the entire Fallout franchise. It doesn't care how strong you are, how many perks you've earned, or what armor you wear. All that matters is what you do when things are stripped down to nothing. And for me, that hit pretty hard. There have been points in life where I felt like I lost everything. No momentum, no tools, no backup, just raw survival. Getting through the day was a win. And like in Dead Money, I had to learn how to think differently, how to move slowly, how to act with patience and intent. You can't rush Dead Money. If you do, you die. It's a DLC built around restraint, listening, observing, and learning to endure. You don't overpower the villa, you outlast it. And then there are companions, God and Dog, Dean, Domino, Christine. Each one is broken in a different way, just like you. And to succeed, you don't just have to manage them. You have to understand them. Because the truth is, you're not escaping Dead Money unless you change. Unless you become someone who can survive without control, without comfort, and without guarantees. And if you do, you find the Sierra Madre and the gold. But here's the twist. The final lesson of Dead Money is that the gold isn't worth it. You can take it. You can trap yourself with it. You can bury yourself in it. But the game whispers something powerful if you're listening. It tells you to let go. Let go of the past. Let go of what you thought you needed. Let go of the weight. Because the person who escapes Dead Money isn't the same one who entered it. And that's not a bad thing. That's growth. Then, Old World Blues takes you out of the wasteland and drops you into absurdity. Talking appliances, over the top scientists, mutilated animals with laser guns. It's easy to laugh it off, but underneath the camp and the chaos, the DLC is about identity. You start the game literally without your brain. Your spine and heart have been removed. Your body has been tampered with. You are, in every way, disconnected from yourself. And yet, you still function. You still survive. And that got to me. Because there have been times where I felt disconnected from who I was. Where I was going through the motions, acting on instinct, not really feeling whole. I was, chasing distractions, ignoring pain, and trying to keep moving without ever asking, who am I becoming? Old World Blues is ridiculous on the surface, but deeply serious underneath it. It forces you to wrestle with parts of yourself you usually try to ignore. The past, your mistakes, your programming, and what you're going to do about it. The think tank. They're brilliant. And blind. They know everything but understand nothing. They represent knowledge without wisdom. data without growth. And that was, for me, a long time ago. I read books, watched the videos, collected facts, but I wasn't changing. I wasn't becoming someone new. Not until I stopped treating life like a checklist and started treating it like a challenge. And in Old World Blues, that's what you do. You confront the absurdity. You fight through the noise. You literally take back your mind. You reclaim control over who you are. By the time you leave the big MT, you're not the same. Not because you got stronger stats, but because you learned much of yourself can be taken. And how much of it you're willing to fight to reclaim. Fallout isn't about strength. It's about returning to yourself when everything around you is trying to pull you apart. And that is a lesson I will never forget. Lonesome Road is the ending before the ending. It's not just a final DLC. It's a confrontation with the weight of your decisions, with the version of yourself you could have been, or might still become. Ulysses isn't a villain in the traditional sense. He doesn't want to kill you out of hate. He wants you to understand. He wants you to see what your choices meant. The divide is full of silence, ruin, and reflection. The further you walk, the more it feels like you're retracing every step that led you here, not just as a courier, but as a person. And by the time you reach the end, Ulysses doesn't care what you've done. He cares about why. That's what hit me. Because the hardest part of any journey isn't surviving. It's owning your reasons. Lonesome Road forces you to walk without allies. No backup, no distractions. Just you and the consequences of your actions. And that kind of solitude isn't just physical. It's psychological. It's when all the noise stops. And the only voice left is yours. You can try to blame your past. You can try to bury it. But the divide doesn't let you lie to yourself. And when you face Ulysses, you're not really confronting him. You're confronting the version of yourself that never really changed. The one who kept making excuses. The one who kept running. The one who wanted to be more, but never paid the price. And when you walk out of that room, if you walk out, you carry more than just gear. You carry clarity. That's what New Vegas gave me. Not just a story, not just choices, but a mirror. One that doesn't lie. One that doesn't flinch. If this story spoke to you, if you've walked through your own version of the Mojave, help this video reach someone else who needs it. Drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know, and lets me keep telling stories that matter. And when you're done here, check out some of my fact videos and deep dives into Fallout's Easter eggs and forgotten lore. They're packed with things even longtime fans might have missed. And you know what, guys? The Mojave, it has a way of revealing who you are. And if you made it this far, guys, then maybe you're not wandering aimlessly after all. Maybe you're just figuring out which road is yours. And you're finally ready to walk it. Corn out.